Good morning, world.
Good morning.
We're back. So we're going to do something different on this channel. I didn't tell Cedric this. I just made an executive decision. Since we're barely getting any videos out on the original, the OG Cedric and Brian, we're going to do everything on this channel for now, including music videos. And today we're going to talk about Cedric's state, because he still lives in the unfree state of California.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about my state of mind. I said that'd be a long video.
That would be an empty video.
Yes, it would. Well, let's talk about California. What are we going to talk about specifically?
I'm going to play you a clip from your illustrious governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom. So get ready for that, Cedric.
Okay. And that's a good segue. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about Gavin Gruesome Newsom. Stay tuned. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. All right, Cedric, I don't know if you've seen this, but Gavin Newsom was on a podcast. I believe it was a podcast, pod show. I don't know. Everything's podcast now. We should know. Yeah. Yes. And I believe he is pandering. I'm sorry. He is talking to a black audience. I'm just guessing because of the words that he uses. And I know that the host of the show is black. So I'm just making assumptions here. You can make your assumption after I play it for you.
Does he address him as dog or homie or player?
No, he doesn't quite go Kamala Harris on him, but, you know, we'll see.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's do this. See how the connection is here. All right. Lizard Man himself, Gavin Newsom.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. You know, I'm a 960 SAT guy. And I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. This may be the wrong business to be in. My dyslexia, I haven't overcome dyslexia. I'm living with it. I was the guy in the back of the classroom and my head down, just praying the teacher didn't call on me. I went through, I think I lost count of how many schools I had to go to. And, I'll never ever forget. My mom's choice was never to label me. She just had to struggle with me. And I walked in, I'll never forget this. It was probably 8th or 9th grade, walking home. Got home early. My mom was always working, so, I'm cooking, literally lived on Stouffer's lasagna, macaroni and cheese. I got finished, 2 pots of macaroni and cheese and got bored. And I went upstairs and there was a file cabinet open and it said Gavin. In fact, she had a weird name, Gavinsky. That was like my nickname.
So
and
weird.
I opened it up and it was all of these reports from the doctors. And I never realized I was going after school 3 days a week. I didn't know what for. And it was all around, it was the lisp and the reading, the B's and the R's were backwards, spelling which, W-I-C-H, the whole, and I'm like, what is this? And that's when I learned I had, quote unquote, dyslexia. My mom was furious because she didn't want that to limit me.
All right, Cedric, well, at least he had an excuse for getting 960, not like those people in the audience.
Right, exactly. What do we say about Gavin? Not only can he read a book or a piece of paper, he can't read a room either. To make that statement in front of anybody, and let's get away from the race thing for a minute because that's tiring to me as well. Why would you say that in front of anyone? But I know, like you said earlier in the prelude, Brian, he's trying to pander or gaslight to these people to say, hey, my man, hey, my brother, my sister, I'm just like you. We're one and the same.
But then he goes,
and I don't know why.
But this is the thing. This is the low key racism that these people on the left, they virtue signal like they care about everybody, and then they don't even realize it. They don't have the self awareness to know that they just said something completely demeaning by saying, he was trying to say that he had this low score just like them. He's assuming they had low scores, I guess, because of the color of their skin. And it's the most racist thing. And yet they're the party of tolerance and anti-racism.
I think, and you touched on that, Brian, when the left tries so hard to connect with the Black audience, and let's talk about Jasmine Crockett for a second, her ability to code switch at the drop of a dime, sounding very professional, articulate, like she graduated from Harvard, and she can become just as ratchet and ghetto as she wants to be in a heartbeat. And Gavin Newsom does the same. And he doesn't even realize he's doing it. He also does that podcast with, who was the running back for the Raiders? Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, okay.
He has a podcast with Marshawn Lynch, and he really tries to talk like the way Marshawn would talk. And I don't know who the other guy is on the three-headed podcast, but it's embarrassing. If you could just be yourself and talk the way you talk, you're more relatable.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing that we talked about before, trying to go out of your way to relate to somebody. Just like, be yourself. If you're not racist, you're not racist. But by saying these things, they don't even realize how racist that is, and then they're always the ones calling other people racist by just being honest and taking things out of context. And I don't want to get away from, but it's just, he's such a slime ball. I just saw him talk about something too. He came out with, remember when he had his podcast? I think his first person on there was Charlie Kirk. And he talked about how his son was this big Charlie Kirk fan, right? He was just saying, he's just a huge fan. Well, after Charlie Kirk died, a reporter came out and said, how did your son take it being such a Charlie Kirk fan? And Gavin Newsom said, I wouldn't call him a fan, and it's just like, it's just disgusting. And then he pulled this. I just thought I'd bring this up because we haven't done this fun racism stuff on the left since Joe Biden told you that if you didn't vote for him, you weren't black. And so obviously you voted for him.
Right. Yes. And we're still talking about how black people can't go to the DMV and get identification, and they don't know how to do that. And I don't know when Gavin is going to learn. I don't know when the entire left is going to learn, is that you're just, the more you try not to be racist, it's making you more racist. Mm-hmm. And it's so simple. I remember we used to say a long time ago when we first started on this podcast with Brian and I, we used to say that pretty soon everything's going to be racist to the point where nothing's going to be racist, because it's their go-to for everything. Every slight, every time a group is not favored, it's either racism and or sexism. And it's getting to the point where it's played out. And I hope he doesn't try and use that during his presidential run if he still plans on doing that.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do some form of that. I mean, this whole voter ID thing has devolved into, they found out, I think, through polls that they weren't getting away with it with the racism part like they did for years. We did a whole episode on, them claiming that black people couldn't get an ID. So we did a parody of that with you pretending that you couldn't make a copy on the copier or something like that. But then they're like, okay, well, we can't, they're calling us out on the racism stuff. So let's talk about sexism and that. Those poor women, when they get married, they're just not going to be able to vote because, their last name changed. Of course, when you get married and your last name changed, one of the first things you do is you take your marriage license and you go down and you take care of all that. Is it an inconvenience? Sure. But what in life isn't? There's all kinds of inconveniences in life. But then they have to turn that into it. And I've seen it from family members that they're trying to keep the women from voting, which is funny because those are the married women, and the married women are the ones that usually were voting more right than the single women. So their whole narrative falls apart with that anyway. But they got to do something. They got to do something. Yes. Midterms are coming up, and then there's going to be another presidential election right around the corner.
Right. And for those of you who are thinking about voting for Gavin Newsom, I can't go into a lot of detail about this, but my wife works for a prison down here as a medical assistant. Well, the prison she worked for was recently shut down thanks to the gentleman we're talking about. And now she works for another prison. And my wife has talked to several coworkers who are just glowing over Gavin Newsom. And she'll ask them, like, why are you voting for Gavin Newsom? And here's what the women say. The women will say, have you seen how he looks? He just looks presidential.
Oh, my God.
You guys, we got to be better than that. We have to grow up in this voting process. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but if Gavin does run for president, please take a hard look at how California is struggling. And this is where Brian's going to jump on me and tell me to move. But look at the schools, look at the infrastructure, look at the homelessness, look at everything that is falling apart with California. People are still suffering in the Palisades and in Malibu because homes that have been burned down, they haven't even started the process of rebuilding those homes yet. It is just a complete mess. Now, if you want our entire country to look like California, hey, then vote for Gavin. But if you have any common sense, and I feel like we're preaching to the choir because most of you who watch our channel are in alignment with us, but please ask your friends just simple questions. Do you want the rest of the country to look like California?
Well, and you hear there, so our buddy Bernie Sanders was on a talk show recently speaking to just that because he was asked, about California and all these people leaving, especially the big businesses leaving California. And, of course they're going to leave California because if California is going to try to make them pay so much money to stay, they're going to say, well, there's plenty of states out there that are business friendly. And, so we're seeing everybody leave, not just the middle class. The middle class have to leave California. I don't know how Cedric's staying there, but, whatever. That's him. He likes sunshine. But now the big businesses and the tech firms are leaving because, they're like, I'm not going to pay this exorbitant amount of money when I can go to Miami or I can go to Texas and do that. So Bernie Sanders said that's why we need a national tax. So not only did California run the businesses out of California, now Bernie wants to run all of them out of the country. So that's what you're going to get. You're going to take these policies that are failed. They want to broaden them when they take control back of the national debate, and they're going to implement them on the national scale. And then not only are you going to not be able to leave a state and move to another state, but now you're going to have to leave your country, and they're going to take all that wealth out of the United States if these policies continue. So for those of you who are going to vote in the future, if you think Gavin Newsom looks good, so I'm going to vote for the guy that looks good and is so humble that he had to overcome dyslexia. By the way, Cedric, he hung out with the Getty kids, the billionaires, and the
the whole macaroni and cheese.
Yeah,
that's a farce.
It's just that's a liar. But anyways, people like him and people like Bernie, they're going to take, at least right now, we have our republic where people like me said, you know what, loved California, lived there my whole life, but it's like, I want to be able to retire. I want to be able to do things that I've never been able to do before. I'm tired of paying $5-6 in gas every day. I'm tired of the property tax. So I left. I was able to leave because we live in this great country where you got different states that control their states differently. These Democrats don't want these states to control things separately. They always want national mandates. And then you're going to be running people out of the country. And then what do you have? So Gavin Newsom is kind of the canary in the coal mine. And if people don't look at what he did to that once beautiful state of California. First, he took a beautiful city like San Francisco and ruined it. And then he took it through the whole state. Now he wants to take it throughout the whole country. Please, just do your due diligence. You don't have to listen to a couple knuckleheads like that. But we did live, one of us still lives in the state of California. We saw what happened and seeing what's happened to that state. And all you have to do is look up numbers, Cedric, and see how many of the middle-class people have left. And Gavin tries to say, oh, more people are moving in. More people that want welfare and things like that are moving in. But the people that actually pay the bills are leaving there. And there's a reason for that, and it's not the weather.
Right. And I'll end with this. Well, one thing, Brian, I can't stand the canary in the coal mine analogy. I don't want that poor bird to die. But anyway, that's the one you went with. But we've lost Joe Rogan. He left here, went to Texas. Elon Musk left. And did he go to Texas as well or Tennessee?
And Texas, I believe.
Texas. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's astronomical. The big gas company.
In-N-Out left to
In-N-Out in Tennessee. Yeah. That's what a hamburger is all about. And just recently, the huge gas company, Valero, I don't want to misquote this, it's like some 4 billion, if not more, in taxes that they've taken with them, because basically what Brian was just talking about, it's like they're getting tired of all the red tape and bureaucracy here in California. And they're like, yeah, you know what? We're going to take a big hit for leaving, but we'll make it up in the long run by getting away from this crap show that's called California.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I know you guys usually expect us to do music videos, and we'll get back to that. But I saw this clip, and I wanted to get back to the OG Cedric and Brian stuff. Some of you love it, some of you hate it. It is what it is. We just, those of you know long enough that have been watching long enough know we're a little partisan, but we try to think of our partisanship as kind of common sense. We come from two completely different perspectives on where we end up, but here we are. We are where we're at, and one of us is still in California, and one of us is not. And there's a reason for that.
If you don't like Brian, that's okay. If you don't like me, you're racist.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Sorry we're not putting out as many videos. I am working on my other channel, though, Tennessee Time. So if you want to see what's going on from the move from California to Tennessee, you can always check that channel out in between. And then Cedric and I are working hard on trying to get more episodes out here. We know that Tom came out with a video. Ren came out with a video. We haven't done any of those. So we'll try to get back on the saddle.
All right, you guys. Well, again, we thank you for your support, and we thank you for always being there with us. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and continue sharing our channel with everyone you know, from California to Tennessee and all around the world. Yes, even California, as much as it pains me to say that. Keep grinding, keep loving on each other. And until next time, I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. See you later.